Welcome to Pound for Pound ATL, arguably the best place to get facts and opinions on your Atlanta Falcons. And absolutely the best place to get your opinions in. The guys are here, the chat is ready, and the conversation starts now.
What's going on, football fans? Welcome back to Pound for Pound ATL Live, one of the best places to get your opinion heard. My name is J.R. Clark, joined always by my main man, Toby D. You can see that we're running a little old school today. Jimmy and Mike have been caught up with some work stuff, but that's all right because me and Toby are going to hold it down. We are going to chat with y'all and see what the deal is. Toby, what's going on, brother?
Hey, man, it's another day, another dollar, as they like to say. Hey, it's Wednesday, live streaming, and I'm excited to be here, man, to talk some Atlanta Falcons football.
That's it. Yeah, that's right. That's right. We are definitely doing talking some Falcons football. We had another preseason game. For those that were with us as we live streamed our commentary, obviously it didn't turn out the way we wanted to, but I think there was some definite improvements.
Yeah.
What was your initial feelings on that game?
So I didn't really get to pay attention too much because I was doing the live stream. And when I went back and watched it, one of the things that stuck out to me is Dean Pease is going to put you in position to make plays. Those guys were in position to make the plays that need to be made. Unfortunately, they didn't make a lot of them. Darren Hall, for example, he let a play get out on him, and he couldn't corral the guy in, and boom, he gives up a nice little chunk of a game there. And there was other guys that was put in position too, and that shows me, man, after them working them joint practices the way they did, you can tell that they came out and made the adjustments they needed and used that in the game setting. So I at least feel confident that if we get in a situation where the defense starts off sluggish, man, film work will help with Dean Pease. He's going to put you in position to readjust things and make the plays necessary in order to slow things down a bit and get the defense on track. So I do feel good about that part based off what I saw in that game.
Yeah,
so what you thought?
I think I tend to agree with you. Like, watching it live, I was like, okay, is Dean like going a little more vanilla than he was in Tennessee? Because it seemed like watching the Tennessee game, now granted I was in the stadium, so it was a little bit of a different perspective, but it seemed like the Tennessee game, like he was bringing pressure left and right, but I think it was more of it was actually like it was working. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where Miami had been seeing it for 2 days, so their offensive line was able to kind of thwart it a little bit, and also you had to figure that our backups were going against their first-team offensive line.
Right.
So what I found to be encouraging about that is, with that being said, Ogundeji was a guy who stood out as a guy who seems to be making the leap week in and week out from practice and into actual game film and stuff like that, because actual game situations. I mean, I don't think he actually recorded a sack in that game, but he was all over the place. He was coming with hurries. I know he had a pass deflection. So, Ogundeji has definitely so far has been like the defensive player that has stood out to me in this backup unit. Like him, John Kaminsky before he went out with a concussion, and Marlon Davidson. Now, we have since gotten both of those guys back at practice, so that's good.
Yeah.
And Kaminsky's no longer wearing the yellow jersey, so that's a bonus there. That's showing that he's making his way back to being in game condition, which is good because he looked good against Tennessee.
Right.
But I will say this: before McCarron went down, the offense was actually moving the ball. And for the most part, the offensive line looked much better against Miami than it did against Tennessee.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong, they had back-to-back sacks on Felipe Franks in the, I think it was either the latter half of the second or the early part of the third quarter. But a lot of that could be on Franks holding the ball too long, the receivers not being able to get open.
Yep.
Like that safety that they had, Franks definitely should have gotten rid of the ball. But, the Jones, I think is his last name, who was in at right tackle maybe, or center. Anyway, he didn't pick up the stunt. That came around and was able to get Felipe Franks in the end zone. So it's definitely, I saw improvements.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that is what I wanted to see. Yeah. After what we saw against mediocre talent against Tennessee, I was like, oh God, we're in for another long season. And to have, that backup offensive line was going against Christian Wilkins and going against Raekwon Davis. And they were able to hold their own. So that was encouraging for me initially. Yeah. Let's see. Normally we don't jump into it too quickly, but Jesse Head's already tipped us $20. So thank you so much. Exactly. Thank you so much for that. He says, keep up the great work, guys. See y'all around the bends. Hey, man, if we can get there, we'll be there. That's for sure. But we definitely appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, let's go ahead and jump off into chat since we did that. I don't want to.
Yeah, go for it.
Dexter,
see what they got to say.
Right. Dexter Vallish and Flavius Hobbs says, what's up? What's going on, guys? Glad y'all are here. Same thing with Tim D. He says, yo, hey, guys, love the show. Thank you for being here. Glad you're enjoying it. Joe Houston says, if I was a GM, I would have picked up Alex Smith for the backup QB. I think, didn't Alex Smith retire, or was he just kind of forced to retire? I don't know if he actually signed papers or whatever, but you're right. He would be an interesting, person to back up if they were looking for veteran leadership. It did come out that they signed Josh Rosen, which we'll get into. But it did come out that they also had in Blake Bortles at the same time, and they chose to go with Rosen over Bortles. So that's interesting there, and we can get into that here a little bit later. Woon Carter says, rise up, Pound for Pound family. That was a great live stream Saturday night. He said, I really enjoyed being here with the family. I'm glad you're here, Woon. And yeah, we had a lot of fun doing that Saturday night. Like I said, we'll probably try to do one or two of those during the season. I don't want to commit to too much anything right at this moment, but we did have fun doing it. So it might be something we look to do again. Jonathan Bell says, rise up and hello, P for P family. Same thing with Archangel.
Rise up.
That's right. I'm glad y'all are here. Floyd Donnelly says, Josh Rosen has a gun. Maybe he makes the most of his opportunity. That's the thing. And again, we're going to get into that because that's an interesting aspect right there. Antron Sims says, I think some starters should have played a few plays in the last game, but I will trust the process. A lot of people think that some of the starters should have played. You're definitely not the only one. We're definitely going to get into that.
Yeah.
King says, another week, another P for P. Let's get it. Great to see everyone here. We're glad you're here, King. Same thing with Ghost Pepper says, what's up? William Amy says, what's going on, fellas? Let's see. Willie Doc says, what's going on? Just
Willie Doc.
Yes, the same thing with Fred Butts. Flavius Hobbs says, looking forward to the starters playing in scheme on offense and defense. Time to settle down us fans and inject some confidence into the fan base. Yeah, well, that's a good point you have there, Flavius. So that's something we're definitely going to get into. Keith D says, new to the Pound family. You guys keep it real. Rise up. Hey, man, we try to.
Glad to have you.
And we are glad that you are here. Ian Miles Syrup Sandwich. I like that name. Ian.
Oh, okay.
I've never had a syrup sandwich before. My doctor probably wouldn't recommend it, but that is that's an interesting name. He said, do y'all think we'll have a top 10, top 15 defense? Top 15, maybe. I'm looking for league average or just below league average. Does that make sense? Because if you look at it last year, we were almost dead last in every category. So if we can come up to league average, that's going to be a massive improvement. So that's what I'm looking for. Archangel's in the building. What's going on, Ark?
Man,
he says, I'm trying to go to the Benz for the Eagles game. Hope maybe to see some of y'all there. That would be cool, man. That would be cool. He says he thinks Alex Smith is washed up. I'm kind of on that fence a little bit. Like the Washington Redskins, well, no longer the Washington Redskins, excuse me, the Washington football team, they saw him day in and day out, right? And they chose to go with Fitzmagic over bringing him back. So that kind of tells me what I need to know there. But I do like the veteran presence as a backup. I always like that. But anyway, let's see. Austin Douglas says, finally in here when y'all are live. Great content. You guys give me life watching y'all's videos. Keep it going. Well, thank you. We're just we try to be the optimistic side of the Falcons fandom, as it comes to find out. So yeah, let's kind of get into it. Everybody's bringing up Josh Rosen, so let's just go ahead and jump on into that a little bit. Obviously, AJ McCarron went down. Non-contact injury, ACL tear. To date, he hasn't had his surgery yet. But I'm assuming that's coming. They've already placed him on IR. And so that left a huge void at the backup. Because what you saw from Felipe Franks the rest of that Miami game showed you that he was not ready to be the full-time backup. He was looking to run too much and, wasn't like you could see he was getting rattled way too easy. Like he needs a little bit more time seasoning. And I always kind of figured that was their plan, to, maybe try to stash him on the practice squad, roll with AJ McCarron for a year kind of deal. Yeah. So no surprise there. You had to bring in somebody because you're not going to roll into Miami with just two quarterbacks. Or not Miami, the Cleveland game, with just two quarterbacks on the roster. So you had to bring in somebody else. But the interesting thing is that you brought in Rosen. What makes you, outside of the former number one talent, what makes you think that Rosen, why do you think that was their choice?
Kyle Shanahan. I mean, you're coming from a system. Now, although there'll be a lot of schemes in this system that Matt Ryan is familiar with, a big part of that is the stuff that Kyle Shanahan did and called. So you bring a guy in that's going to know and be familiar with some of the stuff that you want to do. And he's played in a lot of different schemes as well. He's gone through, Miami, he's been through Arizona. And so he has that versatility. And to me, I think looking at it today, I think this is a real good benefit for the Falcons. They might as well go ahead and pencil him in, I think, at QB2. I think this is going to be a great change for him. And you will have a young guy still at the QB position holding the clipboard for you.
And that's definitely an intriguing part of it. I mean, he's only 24 years old. And as the chat is bringing up, he's a former first-round pick. And, not all those guys don't just, fall out of trees, kind of deal. Like, RG3 had a pretty good career as a backup because you knew you could trust him. And he had that talent. Now, RG3 is a little bit of a different situation. Like, he had his chances and wasn't able to, turn in that franchise-type, career, right? But Rosen, you can envision a scenario where 2 to 3 years from now, after, he's had time to really maturate in the system, Matt Ryan rides off in the sunset, you can envision a thing where you might hand him the keys to it, or at least give him the opportunity. And that's the part that I think a lot of people, fan base wise, get intrigued by the fact that he is, a former first-round pick. Like, it was shocking to a lot of people that the Arizona Cardinals, basically tossed him to the side and went and got Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Obviously they felt better about Murray. And I also don't think at the time, I think you had Steve Wilkes as the head coach.
Right, exactly. I was just about to say that.
Right.
And when a team makes a transition over to another coach, the coach is usually going to want his guy. And Josh Rosen was not that guy that he wanted.
Right.
Especially to do some of the things that they want to do with the type of quarterback they have in Kyler Murray. So that was probably to be expected.
Right. And so when they moved on from Wilkes, whether it was rightful to move on from Wilkes after a season or not, or was it 2 seasons? I can't remember how long Wilkes was in there. I know it wasn't long.
1 season.
Yeah.
It was 1 season.
So when they moved on from Wilkes,
one and done,
for whatever reason, and they brought in, they saw the opportunity to draft Kyler Murray, which I truly believe influenced their decision to hire Cliff Kingsbury,
right.
For that transition. They felt like they had an opportunity that they couldn't pass up, so that's what they did. Well, that left Rosen in the wind, right? They trade him to Miami. He can't wrestle a starting spot away there because whether it was coaching or whatever. Then he goes to San Francisco. Is that right?
Yeah, Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, he went to Tampa.
Right.
Hung out with Tom.
For a couple months. And because he wasn't even there for a full season, was he?
No, I don't think so.
And they cut him loose.
Because he ended up being with San Francisco after that.
Right, and then he spent a year, riding behind Jimmy Garoppolo or what have you.
Right.
And so, but again, Kyle Shanahan seeing Rosen, but when you have a draft that was full of guys like Trey Lance and Justin Fields and those guys, even Zach Wilson, they didn't want to take a chance on passing it up. They knew they ain't got nothing in. They've seen what they've have in Jimmy Garoppolo. They swung and missed there. And I don't think that they wanted to take a chance on doing that as well with Josh Rosen. So, they move up, draft Trey Lance. Now Rosen's odd man out, right?
Yep.
So, with that being said, he lands here in Atlanta in what I would consider to be a perfect situation because you have plenty of time to learn a system.
Yep.
Arthur Smith has already shown that he's taken one reclamation project and turned it into a viable quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. And he may be betting on himself to be able to do the same, to at least make a competent backup. Which, hey, I'm down for it, I'm down.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, all of that is possible. And I do want to say this before I get too much further into Josh Rosen. I got to shout out another P4P family that I ran into just recently by the name of Robert out of Atlanta, man. I ran into him and he said he's subscribed and he watches us all the time.
Oh,
so
awesome.
I had to shout him out. But he asked me about Josh Rosen and how I felt. And I said, I really didn't feel much because I'm going to be honest, man. He has been somewhat of a journeyman. He's been all over the place. But this could be, like you're saying, a great experience and a great opportunity for him to get with someone like Matt Ryan. And who knows? There's always a realm of possibility of him to possibly take over. Should Matt Ryan retire soon or is going to another team because he doesn't want to retire like Tom Brady, to take over the reins of this offense one day. We shall see. That shall remain to be seen. But as of right now, he's QB2 that I believe, and he's a clipboard holder at this moment.
Yeah, and I think so. And not that I think that they've seen enough of Felipe Franks. I still think Franks ends up on the team, even if it's in the practice squad capacity. I think they like what they've seen in Franks, especially as far as his mobility. Got to work on his decision-making process.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't think that they're going to give up on Franks by any means. But after that showing, you couldn't feel good about handing QB2 to Franks.
No, not at all.
Not without some other kind of contingency plan. So,
Right.
But I mean, do I think that Rosen's going to end up as our starter? No, not necessarily. He's going to have to show me something.
Yeah.
Do I think that the coaching staff probably said, or the front office probably said, maybe, it's worth bringing him in here to see. He was a former first-round pick for a reason. So, get him in here, see what his, processing is, see what his arm talent is, see what his coachability is. Because it may have been a thing where, early on, he may have had that, like, chip on his shoulder type deal. Like, I was a first-round pick. Like one of his quotes was, 9 other teams are going to regret passing on me.
Right, and I remember that.
And that's...
Yeah, I remember that.
That's fine and dandy, but, are they? I don't think 9 other teams remember that they passed on you at this point,
Wow.
So, I'm just saying, I'm just being real, Do I think he's going to come in?
Yeah.
Do I think he's going to come in and be some kind of like, the heir apparent 3 or 4 years down the road? That remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Let's see. We're going to get back into chat here. Chris Jameson says he had to tell the guy at the car dealership to hurry up. He said, I didn't want to miss P for P. Well, we appreciate you.
Appreciate that, man.
Oh, man. Let's see. Oh, Antron Sims says, Toby D, Hawkins is gone, man. What do you think about that? Yeah, we ain't even got into JV and Hawkins
we
yet.
about to get into it.
Yeah, we're going to get into it.
We're going to get our thoughts on it.
Yeah, you definitely going to get some. Let's see. Archangel says, I'm happy with the signing of Rosen. Unlike most, he's still very young, only 24. He can be coached up, I believe, with the right coach like Smith. That's what we were just saying. It'll be interesting to see how this unfolds. Flavia says Rosen plays similar to Ryan enough, not nearly at the same level, that the game doesn't have to change too much when he comes in, and that's a good point. Flavius, man, just tipped us $20. Thank you, Flavius.
Man,
he says, I appreciate what you guys are doing. Keep up the good work and keep it professional. That's what we try to do as professional as we can be. Obviously, we are not professionals, but, you can still go, you can carry yourself with the right, air. And that's what we attempt to do here.
Yeah.
Jonathan Bell says, trust the organization to make the right moves when need be. As I said, I think even on the live stream, and I know I said on Twitter and stuff like that, as of right now, the organization hasn't given me a reason not to trust them.
Right.
When they do, then we'll have a talk, right? Mike Smith's organization did. Dan Quinn's organization obviously did. So if halfway through the season, we're like, man, this is looking like hot garbage, maybe they should have played in the preseason and figured it out, we could have that conversation then. But it's not like, as far as that goes, it's not like we're the only team that has gone about it this way. The Rams haven't played their starters. I don't think the Chargers have played any of their starters. So it's an interesting time. Everybody's trying to figure out this new preseason, this new 3-game, preseason process, Tony, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was saying Arthur Smith has said they are really, and it seems that once again him and Terry Fontenot are in agreement. They're trying to see what they have, and they're being very committed to that, despite how bad it might look on the field as far as the production, the product that's being put on the field right now. They feel like, hey, we need to see what we got, and usually you'll have teams that'll mix in guys with their first teamers, on defense and offense. But after them are taking a different approach, and they're going with their backup guys right off the rip. So if that's the way they feel good about doing it, and like I said before, on Saturday, they probably feel like they're simulating things in a way that is productive, giving guys a good game feel. And Matt Ryan echoed that today during his presser, that they feel like they're getting great simulation of game reps. So,
I'll say this. Like, I've been going now to training camps for, almost a decade now. And the one that I went to up at Flowery Branch and then the open session at Mercedes-Benz, I saw more 7-on-7 and more 11-on-11 than I've ever seen. That seemed like that's all they did. It wasn't all they did, but it seemed like that was the bulk of the work, was that simulation, that game type. Tony Wright is asking me a question. He says, question for JR. He says, looking ahead in the future, is it possible that 2021 is the last year we see perennial Pro Bowl Deion Jones due to we have Foye Oluokun and Calvin Ridley's contract coming up? Then he adds, plus Grady Jarrett will be up the following year for a new contract and we have to pay him. And we have Michael Walker, who's possibly a replacement for Deion Jones. My thoughts. That's the thing. Like, you're hitting on something that is quite possible. And what I mean by that is, like, you're bringing up it might be the last time we see Deion Jones, but I'm also going to throw out on the table this might be the last year we see Foye, because Foye may price himself out of Atlanta. You see what I'm saying? Because but that's the interesting thing to keep an eye on with Foye getting that green dot. That's what that almost magnifies Foye getting that green dot. That makes it even more intriguing now, because if Dean Pease identifies Foye as being crucial to his defense, and if he says, I love Deion Jones, but I have guys that can do what he does, then you might be right, Tony. Like, this could be the last year. And as far as Grady Jarrett goes, it'll be interesting to see how they value that. Like, because that's the thing right now that y'all got to keep in mind when it comes to these guys and these contracts. These contracts that were previously signed by old regimes. And the players that we like and love, depending on how this new coaching staff values them, they may be gone. Who knows? I can't say. Like, when I was talking to the Spotrac guy early on in the offseason, that was one of the things that he floated was about trading Grady Jarrett as him having a tradable contract. So it'll be really interesting. I know that, as it stands and as it looks right now, Grady Jarrett looks to be a valuable part of this, of this defense. But, like, who knows how Marlon Davidson develops under this defense? Who knows how guys like Kaminsky develop under this defense? I saw a clip, a blurb today about a base defense of Tyler Davidson, and then bookending Tyler Davidson was Jonathan Bullard and Grady Jarrett. So that's having Grady Jarrett play as a defensive end, which may suit Grady Jarrett more. So it'd be interesting. Yeah. Like, no, those are very valid and interesting questions. Any of your thoughts?
I wanted to chime in on that. I think it's going to depend on what the philosophy is going to look like as the season goes along. If we see this defense is actually being the front runners and the ones that are shining the most, there may be a change in the philosophy. We've been offensive for the longest as far as our philosophy and how we wanted to build this team since Mike Smith has been here. I'm really hoping that changes, JR, to be honest with you. And if it does, and the things shift over to a defensive side of the ball, I don't see the defense making too many changes and getting rid of people. I see them paying them and making some changes as far as it goes with the offense, because now you have an offensive mind like Arthur Smith that may not need big time talent, to be able to run his schemes the way that we've had to rely on over the years with the other guys that have been here, Mike Mularkey's, the Dirk Cutters and stuff like that. They may feel like Arthur Smith will be able to take the talent that he has and get the most out of that talent without having to really pay a lot of big time players to be here.
I mean, I've floated it here and there, but if this season goes, offensively the way I feel like it might go, there's going to be a real question if you like how much you pay Calvin Ridley, like dead up, I ain't trying to be hot takey, I ain't trying to be controversial, nothing like that. I'm just seriously looking at it like at the end of the day, it would be cheaper to pay Hayden Hurst than Calvin Ridley. Dead up.
Right.
Like it would dead up be cheaper. And if you start wearing people out with, the two tight end set and absolutely just killing folks with that in a run game, like it'd be interesting to see what they do.
It will. Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but it'll be real interesting. Bryant Long said, have you seen the article about the Falcons supposedly celebrating at halftime during the Super Bowl? Robert Alford mentioned that everyone was acting like they were popping bottles. I only bring that up. I don't want to stay on that too long, but yeah, I did see that article, and I would say if that is true with DQ and them, it wouldn't surprise me.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me that, as the way they dominated on offense all year, that they felt like they was going to be able to just come out and keep rolling. I'm not sure I believe it in a sense, but I would say this, it wouldn't surprise me. It is all I'll really say about that. Archangel says, didn't know Marlon Davidson got hurt in the Dolphins game. He didn't actually play in the Dolphins game. Like he got banged up a little bit in the Tennessee game. And they didn't see any reason to play him because he played really well in the Tennessee game. So unless somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he played at all.
He didn't. Yeah. He didn't play at all. And I want to ask you about that. Yeah. Are you concerned about that brace?
Oh man, dude, that thing is
that's a big brace.
That's a big brace. But as somebody pointed out in jest, they pointed it out. But they're saying that he didn't have an ankle brace, so that's a good thing. So apparently he was wearing an ankle brace as well. But no, that's a big brace. But that, if you remember, speaks to what Mike was saying when we were at that open practice, that he was favoring that leg.
Yeah.
So that speaks to that. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how that progresses throughout the season.
Man, we need him healthy, man. Yes. He looked good that first game.
Well, man. I mean, that, and I'm tired of having a second round bust.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we ain't had a good second round pick since, before Rashid Hageman. I can't even think. I have to go back and look.
oh my!
Right.
That's been rough.
It has been.
Them second round picks, and that's why you see Tommy Dimitrov auction those picks off a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And keep it moving in the draft.
Now, Falcon fans 1990 says, sorry, to not pay Ridley and to pay Hurst is a bad take. I'm just saying, I ain't trying to be hot takey. I'm really not. I'm not trying to be, spouting off and controversial. I'm just saying that if that two tight end set really goes off, I can envision a scenario where you keep Hurst. And, as crazy as it may sound to other people, in this cap situation that we're in, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't want it to happen by any stretch of the imagination. I like Ridley a lot. And I think he is an amazing route runner. And, again, he makes our team better. If Michael Walker King says, if Michael Walker progresses in year 2 like I think he will, it will go a long way in determining and keeping Foye. That's good. Like, again, these are the interesting, conversations that you're going to end up having.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with guys like Dorian Etheridge, the undrafted linebacker. If he keeps playing well, same thing with, Enroll Thompson.
Earl Thompson.
Yep. So, they're going to have some interesting decisions to make on this defense coming up. especially with the cap situation in where we're at. Fred
Yeah.
Butt says he thinks that the Falcons will be an offensive team as long as Matt is here. And, I mean, look, if we can get to where the defense is pulling its weight, at least, and we have a run game to rely on, we don't have to be a Matt-driven offensive team.
Right.
I think that's the point that you're going to maybe see change a little bit. Let's see. We're going to keep going here. Oh, they're correcting me. Michael Walker says Deion Jones was the second round. I guess in that, I always forget him and Keanu were in the same draft. And because how well he plays, badly enough, my brain was like, oh, he's a first rounder. Because that's how he plays.
Yeah. Yeah. He was a second rounder, but he's one of a few on one hand you can count that has actually had some success being a Falcon as a second rounder. I mean, you have Jalen Collins.
He had some
second
success.
rounder.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't get out of his own way.
Right.
I mean, Robert Alford, was a second rounder, and he had a good career for us, enough to earn him a second contract until he started getting hurt. And so apparently I've opened my mouth or opened my foot, open mouth insert foot on that on my second round comment because everybody's reminding me now who all is second rounder. And Falcon Fan says the jury's still out on Oliver. Yes, the jury is still very much out on Oliver, whether he was worth a second round pick or not.
Right.
Dexter Vallis says KZ was DeMonte KZ a second round? I thought he was a third.
He was a fifth rounder.
Oh, okay.
He was one of 3 fifth rounders
That's right.
besides Brian Hill and Eric Salbert.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't think he was that high.
Round.
Yeah. Everything ATL says, nah, they gonna pay Calvin, and they probably will. Like at the end of the day, they'll probably pay Calvin, because you don't. I think wide receivers are about as hard to hit on as quarterbacks are, because I mean, how many first round bust wide receivers are there? I can think about 4 or 5 of them right off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, there's some that have struggled, but I believe that you'll have a better percentage of first round talent wide receivers that you'll hit on more so than QBs because
you're
QBs
probably
is
right.
really and you don't have to hit on first round wide receivers either because you can go all the way. We've seen undrafted and find some good wide receivers that just wasn't looked at coming out of college as high.
Yep.
But in the right scheme, they become monsters, i.e. Antonio Brown.
Right. That's what I was just in there thinking. Antonio Brown was a perfect example of that. Let's see. Tony Wright asked you a question, Toby. He says, in the 2021 draft, we draft a running back for one of our 2 second-round picks. He's talking about his draft coming up. Do you think we'll take a running back in this upcoming draft?
But he had a lot of future stuff right tonight.
That's Tony Wright's deal, though. We know that. Tony Wright.
I know it.
Yeah, he's.
I would think you have to. The next year over. Right now you got some part-time players that's in that position right now. If Mike Davis pans out, he will probably finish out whatever contract he has with us. I think he signed a 3-year deal or something like that.
Deal.
But Cordell Patterson is he's a temporary guy for right now.
Well, look, you say that now. It looks like I may have to eat my words from earlier. It looks like that Cordell Patterson, at least as of right now, has cemented himself as RB2.
Oh yeah, most definitely that. But he won't. I don't think he'll stay that next year though, because if Avery Williams continues to do what he does and continues to improve in that area, there goes your kick return and punt return.
I mean, that's true.
You know what I mean?
He looked good during the preseason, coming on those kick returns. Let's see. Fred Butts is reminding me about the new TV contracts money kicking in. So that'll probably make the salary cap look a little better. And, if they don't spend the $7 million they got right now, they roll that over and that could help. So I'm not saying that they have to make any kind of crazy move. I could just see a world where you do,
And it could.
Yeah, who knows, right? I don't.
Nobody really knows yet.
Let's see. Hunzolo on Tap Music says Darby could be our Antonio Brown. And then Falcon fans also followed up, says Darby could be a beast, but he's still raw. Yeah, I mean, I like what Darby has brought so far. He made some good catches in that Miami game, which I was finally glad to see him actually getting some run at something other than just special teams. So I'm liking, and then like he's still flashing when you see him in the training camp clips. You know, he was in the clip today, you know, catching a pass. So
I mean, he's had some flashes here and there. The first game, he was nowhere to be found.
No, he definitely wasn't.
Second game, he got a little bit better, but like it was mentioned today, special teams is going to be key for him.
Yeah.
To really make 1 or 4 or 5 of these wide receivers that will possibly be kept on the roster. When the 53 is all said and done, come Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, Arthur Smith mentioned after the last preseason game, they got Tuesday, probably more than likely 4:00 p.m. to get down to 53 guys on the roster.
Yeah, that's going to be some big cuts.
Yeah.
Your boy Bell says, I'm gonna summarize for him. It's way too early draft projection. What do you think we target in our first round next year?
I want defensive.
I think so too.
You
got a defensive heavy draft coming up. Like I haven't started to get into it, but you know I frequent a lot of chat rooms that are like I'm trying to get better at the draft analysis stuff. And so I frequent a lot of chat rooms of guys who like that's what they do. And from everywhere that I'm hearing, next year's draft is a stacked defensive draft. So I would imagine that they, after getting a unicorn in the first round this past year, that they would probably go defense next year. Myself. Now, back to our current roster. They're bringing up like William, Amy, and Hunzolo are bringing up that Christian Blake might get cut, and I don't think so.
Y'all say that.
Yeah, y'all gonna summon Jimmy out of the ether. Y'all start talking about CB13, but no, I think he brings that special teams value,
and he does,
and you know he can fill in. You know, in a punt return like capacity. So, like he may not get on the field a ton, but he does have some familiarity with Ryan from last year. So, I think he's a guy who makes the roster myself. I think I saw like a way too early like 53 projection from the Falcons website itself, and they had Christian Blake as being like the 5th wide receiver and only carrying 5, which I thought was interesting myself.
No surprise if that happens because the tight ends.
Right.
And you probably will carry 4 tight ends on this roster for the Atlanta Falcons. So it could be a possibility. You got 5 wide receivers and 4 tight ends who can also play special teams, of course.
Right. And then that's the tight end that makes it interesting to me is Hess, number 46.
Yep.
Because when I went back and was charting the game, he played quite a bit at fullback as well.
Yep.
So there's some position versatility with him in that aspect.
Him and John Rainey have been getting a lot of snaps.
Yes.
Number 89.
Yeah, number 89.
They've been getting a lot of snaps the first 2 preseason games.
And it's been a real good mix of them getting snaps at the fullback, which I find interesting.
Right.
Because that is a way to, you know, mix up your use of that 12 personnel package.
Right.
Now, I was I don't know if you have done it yourself, but you taught me got me into charting games. And so I have my paper here. Going over, like, I wasn't able to chart the full Tennessee game, I charted the vast majority of it. But in that game, it was a heavy pass game, a heavier pass game. Now, do you think that just straight comes out of the fact that they couldn't get the offense in rhythm? Because, go ahead.
No, I mean, it's hard to kind of gauge that really, JR, right now, because Arthur Smith has shown through these first 2 games, he's not really showing any of his tendencies, because he started off a heavier passing game in the first game, and in his second game, he went more heavier in the run game. And, so it's just kind of hard to kind of gauge. Now, this game, he may get a little bit more what it would probably really look like.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not with Matt Ryan, because I don't know if Matt Ryan is going to play or not. With Josh Rosen now is here, and he's going to need a chance to get acclimated.
It'd be interesting to see how that pans out now.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the second game, like you went from 11 runs all the way up to 28 runs.
Right.
And again, I don't know if that just has to do with like situational of the actual game itself. The fact that they couldn't get no run game going, but that was one of the things that I counted as an improvement from the first game to the second game.
Right.
Was the running. And we can go ahead and tie this into the JV and Hawkins talk. But you started the game with Olesen, which I was so happy to see. Olesen, I ain't made it any secrets. Olesen has been my guy. He's the guy who I've been wanting to succeed for so many years. We were drafting these tiny little scat backs, from Quiz to Devontae to Ito Smith, and I just wanted a power back. And then we finally draft one in Quadre, and you use him in a good way to use a rookie, which is, goal line, short yardage.
Goal line presence.
Right.
Right.
And then the next year you sign Todd Gurley, and he ends up riding the bench all year because of your nincompoop of a offensive coordinator.
Don't say his name.
No, should not be named. But nonetheless, so I finally was hoping like, okay, he's gonna get some run here, that with this new regime, and then right before preseason starts, he gets hurt or whatever in camp. They never come out and say what happened to him, but he was wearing, yellow jersey and wasn't out there practicing for a while. And I was like, oh man, this ain't good, because that's a good way to get cut with a new regime. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because your best ability is availability, right? And so, but in the Miami game, we finally got to see him in action, and he looked pretty good.
Oh man, he looked very energetic and explosive at the beginning of that game, man. I love to watch it.
Right, and
that's the part I didn't miss.
Right, and that was what I think. Like he wasn't in there long because they were like, okay, we saw what we needed to see, and went ahead and pulled him out. And then you got who has been my surprise of camp, really, has been Caleb Huntley.
Yeah. Number 42.
Right, because all the way up to the actual preseason game starting, you didn't hear much about Huntley.
Right.
Like from everybody's reports. Now, granted, when we went to that open practice, Huntley was standing out.
That's when he had his coming out party right there.
I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah.
And so, you go to the Tennessee game, Huntley was the only running back that looked good.
Yep.
And then you go to the Miami game, Huntley was looking good, not only running, but also pass pro. Like he was picking up blitzes.
Yep.
And then we'll go ahead and get into it now. You get into that series where you have that stretch run. Hawkins hits that hole like he's supposed to. Like we were all waiting on him to do. And he hits that hole. And he gets screaming downfield, and about 30 yards downfield, he stops running, basically. He starts like almost like he was panicking. Like, I need to secure the ball, and, because they're fixing to tackle me, and I don't want to fumble. Well, he pretty much tackled himself on that scenario.
Yes, he did. He did.
And I've went back and watched that play 3 or 4 times now. And then the part that I think really sealed it for Hawkins, at least in this first run, like Hawkins may end up on the practice squad, which I think is a real possibility.
And we talk about that.
Right, which I think is a real possibility. But that very next run, same play. You had that stretch run, and Huntley looked like he was shot out of a cannon.
Ooh, oh, man.
Like, I don't know if you remember, for a brief second, I thought it was Hawkins.
Oh, no, dog. When I saw him shoot out that hole, boy, it was over. And I'm going to tell you something. You got a guy that big running that fast, you are not going to want to get in front of him. No. I don't care if you are a veteran. I don't care if you've been in the league 10 years as a veteran safety. You got a guy running that fast and that big, you are not going to want to get in front of that. And he was running as fast as I don't know. I didn't even know he could run that fast.
No.
But you don't have much film.
No, I mean, what I was able to find on him from Ball State showed a guy who had great balance.
Mm-hmm.
He almost reminded me of Marshawn Lynch in the way he ran. It looked unorthodox in a sense, and he looked like he was hard to take down because of his balance.
Mm-hmm. I can only wish.
Right. I'm not saying he is. But I'm saying that's just like initially who he reminded me of. But to see how fast he was on that Miami run, and then you add in the fact that I think he was the most productive runner of the night, even more than Dante Foreman, who I think he's battling with for that last running back spot. Y'all forgive me there. I'm actually gonna look up and see if I can find his stats as far as like what he had per clip.
Man, while you doing that, did you hear did you hear them actually say that Arthur Smith likes to wear you down in the fourth quarter?
Oh, dude.
When the last time we heard that? Just tell me when the last time as a Falcons fan you heard something like that since back in the old days, man, when we used to run and pound the ball. I mean, that just got me excited when I heard that.
I'm gonna go ahead and call it. It is definitely a old school mindset with a new school flair.
Yeah.
All right. So I got it pulled up now. In the rushing yards, Caleb Huntley had 6 carries for 57 yards. It was 9.5 yards a carry. Now, granted, a lot of that came on that one big run.
Right.
But that was some consistency. Olsen in his 7 runs averaged 3.0 yards a carry, so 3 yards a carry, which, I mean, is you want it higher than that, obviously. And I think if you were to get a full game out of him, it would be higher than that. And then Dante Foreman, in his 9 runs, he had 2.7 yards, so he wasn't as productive. No. But I think that last spot goes into either Foreman or Huntley.
So I can tell you right now, you're not putting Huntley on the practice squad.
No, you're not going to be able to hide him on the practice squad.
Yeah, you can't.
Not what he's done in preseason.
Yeah.
Like, you might be able to hide Hawkins. You might be able to hide Hawkins if you think that everybody's going to be like, oh, well, he didn't really show much. Not that big a deal. Because you remember they tried to hide Brian Hill. And that didn't work out.
Right.
You know, that was one of the first times I thought I saw them like actually try that. Hide a halfway decent player. But yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to hide Hawkins. Let's jump back into chat here, as we've been me and you've been kind of chopping it up. Let's see. Jesse Head talking about the cap stuff. He said in 2023 we should have, I think, about $25 million available to disperse. Right, 2023 is when, like, from everybody that I've heard, is like the first year that if you really want to, you could walk away from Ryan without much of repercussions there. Austin Douglas says, interested in who y'all think the number 2 corner will be opposite AJ Terrell. Right now it's Fabian Monroe.
And I think that's who keeps it.
I think so too. I think Dean Pease values that veteran leadership or that veteran presence. And like, he already knows that he's got a young buck in Terrell over there. I don't think he's going to want to put 2 out there.
Right.
So just like I don't think like Richie Grant is going to get a good bit of play this year, but I don't think he's going to be a starter. I think he's going to be like in on your nickel packages a lot, you know. Let's see. Hold on. Floyd Dolly says, great show, fellas. Nothing but love, my friend, the Head Brothers. Thank you. We appreciate that. Let's see. Let's keep rolling. Keep moving. Genuine Music says, I say get a QB. Matt needs to be molding our next long-term QB. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't think you go first round. They may start dabbling in like a second-round QB next year, especially with an extra second-round pick. You know, that might be something that they do depending on where they end up. You know, they may package both their second rounds to try to move up or something into the back end of the first, or you never know. Let's see. Keep it on moving. Nick Bangalow says, hopefully Smith can work with Rosen. That's kind of the hope. It'll be interesting to see how that develops. That's going to be something interesting to watch. Dre Jungle says, P for P, what's popping? It's y'all, man. Y'all are popping.
What's up, man?
Your boy Bell says, I read an article today on Bleacher Report. Well, that's the first place. That's the first thing you messed up on. Reading on Bleacher. No, I'm kidding. All right. Suggesting that the Falcons should trade Caleb McGarry for a late round pick. Not sure if I agree, but the thought's interesting for cap reasons. I ain't trading Caleb McGarry this year. Like, I'm not, like, right now, he's your best right tackle.
Yeah.
And I actually want to see what a year under Dwayne Ledford produces out of that. Because one thing y'all got to remember, I don't think they've declined it yet or even picked it up, but we still have the 5th-year option for him that can keep him and Lindstrom around at a cheaper price. Archangel agrees with me. I always like when people agree with me. Says he says Olesen has always been my guy. I agree, JR. Yes, I have a soft spot for Olesen. Philly released Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco signs with the Falcons. That would be hilarious if Flacco ended out his career behind Matt Ryan. The jokes would ensue.
That would be interesting.
Jonathan Bell says, I really like the way Caleb Huntley has came along, and his 30-yard run was great. Had me jumping up and down. Yeah, it was all I could do to stay in my seat when he ran through that line like that. Let's see. Your boy Bell says, Mike Davis is our smallest back. Think about that. Arthur wants to beat you down and make teams quit. That's it, man. Like,
oh man, boy, you got to get me jumping. Boy,
but that's the thing. That's like that was one of the deals that, like, how many big runs did you see from a Marshawn Lynch or a Derrick Henry late in the third? Late in the third, in the fourth quarter, because guys were just tired of hitting him, or tired of trying to bring him down, or getting hit by him, getting hit ran over. You know, so yeah, I mean, you can definitely see. Yeah, I know Arthur Smith said, "Oh, there is not another Derrick Henry out there. I'm not trying to recreate it." Yeah, you are. I mean, you would be silly not to try to recreate that formula. Yes, I know you don't have another Derrick Henry, but why do you think I was pounding the ground for Ramondre Stevenson? And you see what he's doing up in New England right now.
Whom I have picked up in my fantasy
as you
league.
should.
I took him in the 4th round. I didn't want to wait to the 5th round because somebody might catch on that I knew that Sony Michel has been traded off to the Los Angeles Rams. Mm-hmm. So, and if they get out of him when they got out of LeGarrette Blount, especially down there in the red zone area, it's over.
Don't you think that they ain't realized that, like, that formula is a good working formula?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. Don't you think that Arthur Smith didn't realize that with Derrick Henry? Who did he have backing up Derrick Henry? Oh, Dante Foreman, another big back. They had Jeremy McNichols, but he came in on mainly like third down type stuff. You know, because like Derrick Henry, for all of his strong suits, he's not the greatest at catching the ball. You know,
Right.
now you have Mike Davis, who is good at catching the ball, big back. You have Cordell Patterson, who is good at catching the ball, obviously.
Yep.
240-something pound back, who ain't got no problem running you over, or at least trying to.
Right.
You know,
Right.
with his experience at punt returner, he's not worried
Right.
about getting hit. And then you add in Huntley, who's a big back, and Olsen, who's a big back. Yeah,
Yep.
he's going to try to run a meat grinder on you. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you, if I see that on week 1, my limit of bills is normally 2. It might go to 4. I'm just gonna tell you. If I see Arthur Smith and we win in that game and they win you out in the 4th quarter running the football, actually running it to run the clock out and get the win, oh dog, I might go crazy.
Dude. And I'll tell you
take
this.
the next day off too.
I'll tell you this, like straight up and down. Like after the the game film that I have watched, of Tennessee, like Arthur Smith doesn't he didn't go away from running the ball. Whether it was 4th quarter, whether they were up, whether they were down. And I'm gonna be interested because there's a school of thought out there that says that you should definitely be throwing the ball more than running it. But you look at some of the teams, like some of the top teams right now, like it's the Baltimore Ravens. They run the hell out of the ball. Tennessee, while Smith was there, very balanced on offense. Same thing with offensively, the Saints, as much as we don't like them, very balanced on offense. So, yeah, I think him running the ball is going to be a welcome sight. I don't think Matt Ryan having to throw the ball 50 times a game, I think that's going to do nothing but help Ryan, in my opinion. Hayden Hughes says Lee Smith will be one of the most pleasant surprises this season. And
yes, he will. We don't talk about him much.
No, we don't. He says it might be a vital piece in this season. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dead up. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if there was an increase in 13 personnel, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, you're right.
Looking at what we have on the roster. Let's see. Your boy Bell says, I will cry like a baby Fred, John Elway style.
Boy.
CJ Goat TV says, if we cut Huntley, you can think about it like this. He did only one really good run. Yes, he had one good run that we remember, the touchdown run, but Huntley did a lot of good things in that game. Like I said earlier, I was talking about, 57 yards for a 9.5 yard average, but he was in a lot of picking up blitzes and stuff like that. That's the things that you want to see out of a young guy. So,
and he's a big enough guy that can handle picking up them blitzes that you're not going to be thinking about as a linebacker. I'm just going to run at this dude.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Well, you saw it. I think it was a play before. It may have been a play or two before that Hawkins run. He tried to pick up a blitz and got ran over, and he just wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
And so that's the deal right there. Rose Stockton said 49ers and Rams, when they went to the Super Bowl, was a running team. That's the thing. It's there's a place in the NFL for running. It's not just I know we like the Mahomes throwing it all over the yard at every crazy angle. That looks awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But having a solid, dependable run game will go a long way, especially at the tail end of Matt Ryan's career. Let's just be honest.
Mm-hmm.
What have we said? We've been saying it all offseason. A run game and tight end play is the best thing for an aging quarterback and a new quarterback. So, I think the transition will go pretty well once it happens. Falcons fan says, I think our run game is going to be way better than the last year. Yeah, because we actually have a coach who wants to do it. That's how he follows it up. He says, with a coach that knows how to run the ball. And it's not just I'm not saying that Cutter didn't know how to run the ball. He just didn't care to run the ball.
Right.
Like I'm gonna run it on first down, that way I got it out of the way. Kind of thing. Like Cutter wanted to throw it around the field. Fred Bus was, what's y'all's touchdown for Matt Ryan? Let me see what Ryan Tannehill throw last year. What's your guess while I look this up?
I think he threw like 33 touchdowns last year, wasn't it?
Something like that. So
I have Matt Ryan somewhere in that same area.
So
30 and 35.
Yeah, you had 33 is what he threw last year. I would think of something in that nature.
Yeah.
Like, because look, you saw some of that, just a little bit of that design on that Tajay Sharp in breaking route.
Yeah.
You know, they had that bunch on him and Christian Blake, I believe it was, on the outside. You know, Sharp cuts in, and he should have caught that ball. That should have been a touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, you're seeing things like that already showing up, even in preseason. So, I can only imagine what he's going to do and what he's going to break out, you know, in the regular season.
Right.
Well, man, we have definitely bumped up over an hour. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on? That you were
No, I don't really. I think we hit a lot of great points tonight.
I think so.
We really covered some ground.
Yep, I think so too, as well. Myself, whatever, however you want to say it. I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up. We got obviously the Cleveland game coming up, where we should be supposedly. We haven't gotten it confirmed really. So, but supposedly we're going to be playing more starters in the Cleveland game. But with McCarron going down, they may be wanting to use that Cleveland game to really see what they got in Rosen and see what he can handle. So you might not see much of Ryan. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes with the starters. But as always, y'all can catch me on Twitter. I'm at Grim1128. I get bored during work and do space chats. So, you know, check me out there. We can chat up. Toby?
Toby D 1991.
Nice.
All day.
All right. And we'll be back again live next Wednesday. And as the season goes on, we got some different ideas coming up. We might be thinking about adding potentially another live stream. Don't know yet. These are just some ideas that we're bouncing around. So keep your eyes peeled on the channel. And as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Rise up.